matters anyway, because of course the deal has been done in Ukraine to start digging the place up. I know that it's been blown up. Maybe that helps with the digging later on. I don't know.
It may do, if indeed anyone can actually work out what it is they're going to be digging for. We hear that Donald Trump has raised eyebrows and a certain amount of consternation by suggesting that he has struck a deal for rare earth elements with Ukraine. But as asked by Argus, the bizarre case of Ukraine's rare earths here in a piece, really the question to be asked is that what he meant? Or was he talking about minerals in general? There's no open source evidence to suggest that there is in fact $500 billion worth of such elements in Ukraine, which does not say that it's not the case. Something that is worth pointing out, though, is that Ukraine is reckoned to have around 500,000 tons of lithium to be extracted. And when one considers the influence that Elon Musk, the owner and chief executive of Tesla, has as an interest in the operations of the US government and indeed his company, that may be relevant. But I think more than that, it sets the context for the United Kingdom's involvement. And when one thinks that the UK, at the moment, despite its critical minerals strategy suggesting that it doesn't actually produce any commercial grade lithium. And even when it does, the aim will be for tens of thousands of tons, certainly nothing of that scale. On the rare earth element side of it, it is considered that Ukraine does have a substantial amount of moissanite, which is a requirement for AI platforms to be able to run. So whether that may have some bearing on it is yet to be determined. But what it does seem to explain, as discussed a little bit earlier, but really the rush from Keir Starmer to get to Donald Trump's side, and indeed Starmer's and Macron's assertion that they will be putting peacekeepers on the ground in Ukraine, despite the batting to one side of that notion by Sergei Lavrov. But it seems to expose the true purpose of the intervention in Ukraine. We've talked a lot about the reconstruction effort and indeed the corporate gains from putting on a proxy war in order that you can hoover up afterwards and go in for the reconstruction effort. But this looks like getting troops on the ground will really be to preserve the interests of the mineral extraction, if such a thing is going to come to pass. Now, what I would like to point out is that it's all very well these discussions going ahead, and indeed they would not be under a UN banner, but that's specifically because, as far as the United Nations is concerned, a peacekeeping operation requires the consent of all parties. And as I refer to, Lavrov is certainly not minded to give such consent. Another thing that I would like to point out, which refers back to Mike's segment earlier in the programme, is that the British Army's commitment to what's called Op Interflex, here an advertisement shown from Soldier magazine in April 2024, which was drawing and still continues to draw manpower away from the United Kingdom's focus on training and the supposed threat from Russia or Iran or wherever it is this week. But it is really worth pointing this out if we are to consider that we are at threat of being invaded or attacked by means other than simply cyber warfare. Is that really credible? Now, what seems incredible is the response I got from the Ministry of Defence when I put a Freedom of Information request in asking about the training of Ukrainian troops under Op Interflex. And specifically, I had asked what units the troops had come from and what audit trail was kept. They have replied saying that with regard to Op Interflex, the data held by Op Interflex headquarters is limited due to the closed nature of the questions which are asked when Ukrainian troops arrive, and we do not specifically track or ask which units individuals come from. Now, this is quite an extraordinary omission or admission from the Ministry of Defence, particularly given the amount of aid that is being provided to Ukraine, both in terms of lethal and what's called non-lethal aid. The sheer bill the taxpayer is footing is incredible. But the summary really is that we have absolutely no idea what effect this training is having. So we don't know where the money's going. We don't know if there's any success on the battlefield of those that are reckoned to have been trained trained under Op Interflex. There's absolutely no accountability. And moreover, we have no idea who these people actually are. So it does, of course, make it entirely possible that the neo-Nazi membership of the Azov Battalion, seen here at the Reform Club with the destroyer of peace, Boris Johnson, is being trained by the British Army. We don't know. I mean, it cannot certainly be said that that is not the case. It also raises the possibility that members of the Ukraine Foreign Legion may be being trained by the British Army. And this is a still from video taken by the headmaster of a private school from the Ukraine border. It's advertising the Foreign Legion as though it's some kind of computer game. Free your fury is the slogan. Now, it's attracted a number of Brits, of course, some of whom are known to have died, all of whom were encouraged to join up by Liz Truss. Here's the website of the Legionnaires. But such joining, certainly from a British citizen, would be an offence under the Foreign Enlistment Act of 1870, which is just another piece of legislation that the judiciary, executive and legislature of this country continue to ignore. But to follow what Brian was reporting on Monday, and as referred to earlier, the manpower statistics are not painting an encouraging picture. At 1st of October 2024, you can see that a clear trend indicates that recruitment is very much losing the battle against retention, with the Army's recorded strength at just 74,000. And I think the question to be put now, with or without conscription, is how long would elements of such a force last if on the ground in a direct engagement with Russia or Iran, or indeed anybody else?
Thank you.